system takes care of them on one day when they're 17. At midnight, they turn 18, and we kick them out, and they're on the street. And I'm looking around, and I'll say it every day. Every friend I have, the majority of them, they're 18-year-olds are living at home, and they're taking care of them. They're paying their cell phone bill. They're paying for their insurance. They're giving them gas money. The kids have a job, but it's not. And I'm going, so if your own kids can't make it, how do you think these foster kids or these orphans can make it? So I just think that I'm giving everybody an opportunity every week. Here is one person right here, is your community, your city, your state. If we can get this one kid adopted every week into a forever family, we're doing something. We're moving the needle at least. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give a face. Because so a lot of people go, well, I need to see it and touch it and feel it to get involved. Well, here you go.
If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've heard me and Josh talk about MWI, which is our digital marketing agency. If you're new around here, this may be a first introduction to MWI. We're a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in everything from website design and development to search engine optimization and all forms of paid advertising, whether it's paid social advertising or paid search advertising, content marketing, digital PR, social media management, basically anything a business needs to strengthen and grow their digital footprint is what we do over at MWI. The website is mwi.com. And for any listeners of the Hope Strategy podcast, I'd love to offer a free 20-minute consultation with yours truly to talk about your business, to talk about your goals, to understand, what you need to be doing from a digital marketing strategy and action plan standpoint in order to yield some results and grow your business online. So please reach out at mwi.com/hope strategy. That's mwi.com/hope strategy to sign up, and we will be in touch. Now back to the show. Welcome to a new episode of the Hope Strategy podcast on this very special week where we are talking with members and participants and those associated with the Orphan Myth campaign. It has been such a great week with great feedback, and this campaign is doing so much good. Go check it out at orphanmyth.org. Today we had the chance, to speak with Leigh Anne Tuohy. Now, for many people, that name might just ring a bell right off the bat. When I give a little bit more detail, if that doesn't do it for you, you will know very quickly here exactly who I'm talking about, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 10 or 15 years. But if we go back in time to the year 2009, a little movie was produced. I can't believe it was that long ago now. Geez Louise. A movie did incredibly well called The Blind Side. And Leigh Anne Tuohy is the real life mom from the story of The Blind Side, who was played by Sandra Bullock. In the movie, Sandra Bullock actually won an Academy Award and a Golden Globe, I believe, for her performance as Leigh Anne Tuohy. So not everybody gets to have Sandra Bullock play them in a movie and win some big awards for it. Leigh Anne is also an interior designer, an American businesswoman, and she's the adoptive mother of Michael Orr, who went on to win a Super Bowl with the Ravens. I believe he played in another Super Bowl with the Panthers and had an amazing NFL career. And obviously, that's what the story of The Blind Side is all about, is the way that Leigh Anne and her family brought in Michael Orr and adopted him, brought him into their family, and the amazing journey that was. It's an incredible movie, an incredible book. The book's called The Blind Side, Evolution of a Game. And it was such a pleasure to meet Leigh Anne, to talk to her and get such direct, she's just very close to this orphan myth, the goal of the orphan myth, which is to help find families for foster children in the United States, to help reunite foster children in the United States with their original families. And if you don't follow her on social media, you should go follow Leigh Anne on Instagram. She shares very uplifting, positive, hopeful content that's all about this cause that she's a part of. And she's the author of multiple books. She wrote In a Heartbeat, Sharing the Power of Cheerful Giving, Turn Around, Reach Out, Give Back, and Get Moving, Making It Happen, Just Turn Around. The idea Just Turn Around comes from the story of when they were driving on a dark road on a rainy night around Thanksgiving time. They drove past this African-American young man who was walking on the side of the road. And she just had, as she put it in our conversation, just a motherly instinct just to say, we need to turn around and see what's going on here. This doesn't seem right. This isn't right. And so they turned around, they turned the car around. And so she talks a lot about that idea of just turning around, just when you see something, when you see somebody that needs help, whether it's just a, pat on the back or a conversation or more than that, to turn around and be the one to provide the help. She's incredibly inspiring. The stories that she told were awesome. And it was a real privilege to get to spend an hour with her to learn directly from somebody who knows what they're talking about, has some incredible life experience. Please enjoy this conversation with Leigh Anne Tuohy.
Something is happening in our world.
Time is very precious.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Hope in the face of difficulty.
More than machinery, we need humanity.
Hope in the face of uncertainty.
I'm better now than I was. I'm experienced now.
Changing the world can happen anywhere, and anyone can do it.
The audacity of hope.
This is the Hope Strategy Podcast with Corey Blake and Josh Steinley. It's so good to meet you. It's so good to hear your voice. I can't wait to talk to you here for a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny full circle moment. So I'm going to take you back in time, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of background so you know what we're all about over here at the Hope Strategy Podcast. But we, when I was in college, I was at Utah Valley University getting my associate.
You were not there when I spoke and Sandy got nominated for the Oscar, were you?
Well, I'll tell you. So you were coming to speak, and me and my wife lived there. We were both students. And I found out you were coming. It was right after the movie came out. We loved The Blind Side. It was a big deal. It was right, kind of that year was huge for you, obviously. And
sure.
And you were coming to speak, and we were so excited. And I can't remember if I got scheduled to work or if something came up and I missed it. And I was really legitimately bummed. I was like, man, I was really excited to go to this. Anyway, so I didn't end up going and seeing it. And then my wife brought that up when I told her the other day. I said, hey, Leigh Anne Tuohy is going to be on the podcast next week for the Orphan Myth stuff. She said, oh, it's a full circle. And she reminded me of that, how bummed I was that I wasn't able to make it to that and that it's a full circle moment. Now, here we are. Who knew 10 years later we'd be talking on a podcast?
Who knew? It's crazy the path God takes us on, isn't it?
It's just crazy. It truly is. I want to start, especially with somebody as incredible. And I know you've been told this a lot over the years, but your story is inspiring. But I'm so fascinated with you as a human being. The interviews that I've watched, the chances that I've had to see you and hear you. Obviously, seeing you portrayed in a movie as well, but also I've watched a ton of interviews of yours and listened to podcasts that you've been on and stuff as I prep for this, and just I've seen you before. You're a firecracker. You are a no nonsense. You get things done. You make things happen, but you seem to do so with just the right measure of get it done attitude, and there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but with a level of grace and humility at the same time, which is this really interesting dynamic. And I'm fascinated with where that came from.
Well, your check is in the mail. Let me start with that. So thank you very much. That's very gracious and kind. I don't know. I'm not pushing it because it's not a big deal, but that's a little of why we wrote our book in a heartbeat, because I don't think it was much as that we wanted to tell the story, is that people were interested more in, I think personally, how they could become givers and plug themselves into a community. If you did this, how can we do that? Which I think in this world right now, we need good role models to emulate. Some of the options that we have, the boxes to check, in my personal opinion, and I still get to have that, that's not who I would want my children emulating. And so we kind of put it out there. It wasn't something we wanted to do, but we thought if this can be like a roadmap, or somebody can look at us and go, this is what they did, what part of that might we pull away from it? Sean and I were both raised by giving parents. Sean's father was a school teacher and a coach. His mom was a homemaker. My father was retired military, a police officer, then a United States Marshal. My mom was an interior designer. She made beauty in many, many ways, and I always respect and admire all the things that they did, but they were big proponents of that everyone had value. and that there's two types of people in this world. There's either givers or there's takers, and you can decide which one of those you want to be early on. And when Sean and I met in college, we were just kind of kindred spirits because we'd been raised very, with similar beliefs, and we just connected. And we've, since day one, that has been a passion of ours, from little things, giving people rides while we were at school, to recognizing that there was someone in your class that didn't look like they had eaten. And this is in college, so you're a little more in tune to things like that than when you're younger. But so we just had these similar passions. And I think that that's how we're kind of wired. And from day one, we have always believed in that I told somebody earlier, you never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. So we've always believed that we can't take any of this with us when we leave, and that we ought to take what we have and give as much of it to those that need it, and that make a difference in wherever we are. And that's what we've tried to do. So I don't know, really, I think that it's because we early on decided to surround ourselves with like-minded people, and just collectively as a community and as a friend group, that this whole kind of cocoon that was around us believed in doing all that you can for others that aren't as fortunate as you are. So that's kind of the short version. That's the spark notes of it, really.
So if you were to get a level, I think one of the things that intimidates people, or maybe inhibits people from taking action steps to help somebody, for example, like you said, you see somebody at school or something that clearly doesn't have as much as you do or something, and clearly is putting off the nonverbal signals of, needs a little bit of help, needs a hand, needs a friend, whatever. A lot of times what keeps people from going and taking that step and talking to that person, or putting their arm around that person, or we'll get into more, stories as we go here, but is a little bit of fear, maybe a lack of confidence, maybe insecurity. So again, your personality to me you seem very confident, and you seem like, has it always been that way? I mean, as a kid, you mentioned your parents taught you this as a kid, and Sean as well, but as a kid, do you remember, kind of learning that skill? You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that just comes easily, right? Like it's not something that one day you wake up and you're just that person. Maybe it is. But how do you recommend to somebody that may say, well, man, I wish I did do that type of stuff, but I don't know. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not that confident. How did you build that confidence and strength in order to be able to do that?
Well, I think that one thing that my parents instilled in me was be the best that you can be, no matter what it is. If you're going to be the best school teacher, be the very best school teacher you can be. If you're going to work crossword puzzles every day, be the very best at that you can be. No matter what it is, just try your very best. And if you're doing your best and you're giving 100%, and you put time in the gym, which is a phrase that our family's surrounded with athletics, so it's always about competition. So we believe in putting time in the gym. And if you do that, then that's great. That's who you are, and that's awesome, as long as you're giving it 100%. And so I didn't have like these comparative parents. It wasn't like, well, you see what Susie's doing over there, you need to do better. I don't think I ever heard my parents compare me to any of my friends, or you should do what they're doing. It was whatever path that I chose to take, just be the best at it that you can be, and do the very best at it that you can do. And with that, that instills confidence in that we weren't quitters. Like, I'll never forget, my brother started Cub Scouts, and he wanted the uniform, he wanted the gear, he wanted the stuff. Yeah. And he did it a couple of weeks or months, whatever. It was a short amount of time, didn't like it. And he's like, I don't think I want to do this. And my parents had saved. It wasn't like they could just go out and get him all the little uniforms and stuff. And I remember my dad looked at him, he said, I understand that, but this is a decision that you made, and we're not going to quit. You're going to see this through. Now, when this is over and this year is ended, we'll sit back and look at it. And if you choose at that point not to continue, then that's fine. But you're going to finish this, and you're going to do the very best that you can do at it while you are doing it. And that's just how we were raised. Is it a parenting thing? I don't know. I don't know if people are innately wired like that. But, I tell people all the time, you hear be bold in your faith or be bold in this. And I think that you need to be just bold in your personality. And there is always someone somewhere that needs a smile. They need a compliment. This doesn't have to be some daunting task that we're asking you to go out and speak in front of the high school or the Rotary Club. You know, we're not asking you to do something like that. All we're asking you to do is make yourself available to do something for someone else. And we all can do that. And you may not even have to put yourself out there. There's volunteer things that you can do where you can sit back at an organization that's making a difference that you have vetted. And there's plenty of places you can go to find good organizations that you know are really doing what they're saying they're doing. And you could probably sit back in their office and file for them, or you can fill the fruit snack jars. Or, I mean, there are things, if you're that person that goes, yeah, I'm just not that one to go out and slap backs and handshake. Okay, well, we have something else you can do. But the thing that we don't want people to do in this world right now is just to sit there and go, well, there's nothing I can do to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because there is. Everybody has the ability to make a difference in someone's life in some shape, form, or fashion.
I agree 100%. So one of the things that's interesting in this whole conversation is that oftentimes what breeds more confidence, what creates more confidence in us is taking that first step to help somebody, to look outside of ourselves, right? And that's come up a lot in these, especially in these Orphan Myth conversations that we've had, is, you know, with that 100% participation campaign, where it's like, look, you don't have to do a ton. You don't have to go and adopt a child this week, you know, but by just participating and dipping your toe in and getting involved in some way in anything, right? Whether it's taking that first step just to say hi to somebody or smile at somebody, then it breeds more confidence, which allows you to build on that, right? And then you'll look back 2 years later and you'll say, oh, wow, I'm actually way more comfortable in this scenario than I was a little bit ago. What benefits have you seen? I love that you and your husband, Sean, see eye to eye on this. And like you said, you were kindred spirits when you met, and it was like, these things are important to you. They're important to me as well. I mean, how has that strengthened not just yourself personally, which we talked about, but your marriage and your relationship, your friendship with your spouse, to look outside of yourselves and try your best to, you know, be of service to others? What benefits have you seen to your relationship with your spouse and your kids as you guys have all worked on that together?
Well, I tell people all the time, they go, oh my gosh, you've been married 39 years. You've got a great marriage. Give us marriage tips. Give us your top 3 secrets. Give blah, 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 whatever. You know, you hear the dialogue. It's kind of the same wherever you pick up some feel good something, or you'll see a magazine at the checkout at the grocery store, 8 tips for a successful this, and actually I tell people all the time, they say that, I said, you know, in this life that we are given, we have one life, and every day we have 24 hours in it to do something to make a difference. Sean and I are very like-minded in that we have to work on our marriage. Everything in life that is worthwhile, you have to work on, whether it's your educational process, whether it's your job. I mean, I don't care what it is, whatever you choose to focus on and spend time on and invest your time in, that seems to be what is successful in people's worlds. And a lot of people don't focus and spend as much time on their marriage or parenting or even maybe their job. I mean, whatever you don't focus on, that seems to be what does not rise up. And so we decided early on that we would spend time working on our marriage every single day. And we were married for, 5 or 6 years before we had our first child, because we said, okay, now we're at a point where we want to dedicate time to parenting. We want to focus on this child, bring this child up. We want them to be giving and caring and loving and whatever the adjective you want to use for all good things, warm and fluffy. And so we at the same time, we spent time with this child and time on our marriage. And then we did things as a family, whether it was eat dinner together at a certain time every day or go to church together every Sunday. There were things that we ensured happened no matter what. Now, yes, do things come up and your schedules get busted? Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want somebody listening to this, like, she's just some little Pollyanna. No, I'm not saying that. Believe me, we have the same everyday fuss, fights, issues, whatever it might be that everyone else in this world has. But with that being said, we still make sure that we circle back around to make sure that we are spending time and focusing on working on things. And we were always, you raise your children. Your children are mirror images of you. Look at yourself at them. If you don't like what your kid is become or doing or being, well, you know what? You got them there. I have not gone on this parenting kick, but but we wanted to make sure that we raised our kids to be philanthropic, to be givers, to plug themselves in organizations. As soon as they could pick clubs at school, the Key Club or whatever it might be that you knew this organization was literally going out into the community where they were, where they had a footprint. We're very big on living where your feet are, and that they needed to do that. And so we made sure they had big brothers and big sisters, that they had this one child they could spend 1 hour a week with. And always it would end up that the child had much more of an impact on our kids than our kids had on that child. And, work on the community service day, organize a community service day yourself. If you're on a sporting team, make sure that team does a can drive, does whatever. Just don't not do something with whatever. So we really instill that in them. And it's, they grew up to be givers. They plug themselves in. They're all very involved in their communities and organizations that are, changing lives. And so I think that it's not just going to happen. You're not just going to twitch a nose or sprinkle fairy dust over your kids and they're going to become that way. Yeah. And same with adults. You have to instill this in your children. You have to do things with them, be involved with them, and make sure that they're on the right path. And I think that's, we were just very aware that we did that, because at some point, it certainly didn't start out that way, but we certainly started seeing a line where we wanted our kids to realize that they were that we wanted them to be grateful for where they were and what they had. And so we wanted to do things to back that up. You need to be grateful, and then you need to do this because of that. So I think you just have to make sure that you're doing that. You have teachable moments with your kids, and you need to seize those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was in high school playing baseball, one of the guys on my teams, his dad passed away kind of unexpectedly. And I remember just recently I saw something, it was an article about, what it's been like the last 20 years since that happened or whatever. I can't remember, but I saw that one of the things that my buddy from high school said is that now that he's a father and raising kids, that he took from his dad was that his dad, as one of the things he told him was that you need to, whatever you want your kids to do, or your kids are going to love to do what it is that you do with them, especially in their formative years, right?
Yep.
So if you want your kids to love football, then you need to go out and play football with them. If you want your kids to love serving others, then you need to get involved with them and do that. And so as a parent of 4 kids myself, that's something that, after a long day of work or, whatever, sometimes that's the hardest thing as a parent, is to say, okay, now it's time to put on this extra gear, to go and take the time that I have with my kids to do the things that I want them to love. So I couldn't agree more. And I love that. One of my early mentors said, when you go somewhere, be there. That's what he said. And I love that yours is live where your feet are. Right. And I've heard you say that a couple of times in other interviews. That just in and of itself as just a daily thing to say to yourself is so powerful. Right.
It is. I agree. Reinforcement.
Yeah. I've used that so many times when it's like, especially in a world today where it's so easy to be distracted by 50 other things, right? With that dang phone in your pocket or that computer at your desk or whatever. Like you are constantly, you have the capability to be anywhere in the world at any time, maybe not literally,
exactly.
and so when you say, you know what, I am here right now with my kids. I am here right now teaching this class. I am here right now at church, whatever it is, I need to be here. I love that mentality. How is that with your kids, raising children? Because one of the things that in today's world where we've been, not everybody obviously, but so many people have been given so much. And one of the concerns I know with parents that I talk to, and we're going down this parent rabbit hole, but I've got a lot of questions for you because you're a good parent. So, and I'm in the middle of it, but
good luck.
Is this, a lot of kids today tend to have issues with entitlement, because they don't understand what it is to, even that story that you shared with your brother and Cub Scouts. It's not like, your dad and mom worked hard to save the money to allow that to happen. And it was like, no, you're going to finish this. Today, a lot of families may not struggle with that or may not have that. And so there's this, how have you seen, you mentioned gratitude. What role does gratitude play in self-confidence and also in not being entitled for an individual?
Well, we have always told our kids, to whom much is given, much is required. That is said constantly in our home. And in order for our kids to understand, I'm talking about just having a home with a roof on it and a bed to sleep in and a pillow. If your children don't understand that in itself is a blessing, that there's some people that don't have that, then you need to do something to make them understand it. So I'm very big on accountability and making them understand that, oh yeah, you are really lucky that you have electricity and clean water. So, this may not be for everybody, but it's how I parent. You don't like it, I don't want to hear about it. But I was real big on sending my kids, once they started complaining about, well, I don't have the newest sneakers, or Susie Q got, new earphones. I don't give a crap what she got. That's not what's happening in this house. And guess what? You're going to Guatemala for the summer for 2 weeks, or you're going to go to inner city, or you're going to go to Dominican. I would send my kids somewhere where they need to have these moments where they have to go and work somewhere else, because you would be amazed at how they will come back and realize they are so lucky and so blessed to just have a bed to sleep in with clean sheets, a pillow, electricity, and running water. And I wanted my kids to understand that just those things were so much more than so many people in this world had. And I think overall, we lose sight of that. We take for granted so many things that you shouldn't. And I just think, I hate to say this, but like during the pandemic, toilet paper. Maybe there maybe really never was a toilet paper shortage. Maybe we just all went and took hoarded toilet paper, and there was probably plenty enough when the rubber met the road. But that gave an opportunity to go, do you see what I'm talking? And my kids are grown. And I went, this is what I try to tell y'all. You don't understand that little things like this we take for granted every day. Don't take any of these things for granted. Be thankful and appreciative and grateful for the little things, because to somebody else, that could be their whole world. And I think that's where a lot of times we miss as parents, because we're so big with trying to keep up and make sure that our kids have the newest, latest, greatest, best, that type of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you have the ability to do that, and you choose to do that, oh, good for you. I'm going to clap for you, and I'm going to cheer for you. And I think that's awesome. But I do think that at some point that you need to step back, and you need to make sure that you are taking time to plug in with your kids and your family and your coworkers and your friend group, just to make sure that collectively that you are doing something that is long lasting, that's beneficial, that is going to make a difference. Because I'll say it all the time. I think that we're put on this earth to serve others. I don't think this is me, I type of thing. And I think if more people thought like that we could eliminate a lot of the problems that we have.
Yeah, you mentioned, I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned Guatemala. I actually went down on a mission trip to Guatemala for a few years as a kid, as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old. And I remember I came home. I remember at leaving kind of this, punk. I was willing to go do this, but I was still just a punk 18-year-old kid, that didn't know anything, didn't know how other people lived. After being down there and being immersed for a few years, and just really getting into that lifestyle and seeing how amazing the people were, the humility, but also the needs and anything. I remember coming back to my house in the States and standing in front of my house, we weren't really wealthy or anything, but it was a beautiful home. And I remember just being so emotional looking at it and feeling so, and guilt wasn't the right feeling to have at that moment, but it was this feeling of just like, how in the world do we have this, and why us? Why do we have, and that perspective is everything. And so I agree with you. As my kids get we've got, our oldest is 9, but as our kids get a little bit older, I'm excited to have those opportunities with them to go and show them some of these places and give them that perspective, because no words that I say of stories I have or experiences I've had, can really get them to feel and understand what that means until you see it for yourself.
No, you're right. So you can touch it, experience, breathe it, smell it. Mm-hmm. And you just sit there and you go, oh my gosh, I'm just so appreciative to have a pair of shoes to wear. And look, I'm not telling parents that you have to go to Guatemala. That's just an option that place where we send our kids like you did, because there are plenty of places in the United States that we can go and serve that are the needs are as great and the resources are as few. So there are opportunities right under our nose. I mean, you would be surprised in your own community how great the needs are.
Yep.
And you don't have to look very far if you're looking for that. And so I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised. I mean, there is probably someone that when we have 4 out of 5 kids going to bed hungry in the United States, I mean, come on, you can find something to do here if you don't have the ability or the access or know how to go to a Guatemala or a third world country or someplace that the needs are just devastatingly glaring.
And that's one of the conversations we've had a lot again about with regarding the Orphan Myth campaign is, and I remember talking with Brian Mavis specifically about this, who has the organization America's Kids Belong, but he had spent his upbringing, and a lot of people do this, just like your kids had the opportunity to do, to say, in order to really see and in order to understand these problems, I need to go elsewhere. I need to go see the other. I need to go, again, we're using Guatemala in this case because we both have experience with that. But yeah, as he's gotten so involved in the foster care system and in the inner cities and working with these youth and stuff, he said, no, it's a mile that way, like you go there and you can see this and you can really make a difference in your community. Well,
we had an incident, it's been before I just rule out 2020. It just didn't happen because so I'm just prior to 2020. But we have an old pickup truck, and a lot of times I'll load it up with, Gatorades and cupcakes, and just fill the back of it and drive around into inner city somewhere where I might be. Stop at a park where there's kids playing basketball and hanging out, and just open the back of the truck down, give out Gatorade, whatever. So this was an instant we were doing this. And Sean, there were several of us that were doing it. And we had these cupcakes and we were giving them out. And the little boy was 5 or 6 years old. And this was in a city that's a metropolitan city. And he came up and he looked at us very inquisitively. And this is in the United States of America. And he said, "Can I have that?" And I said, "Well, sure, you can have it." And so I handed him the cupcake. And he looked at it, he kept looking at it, and he goes, "What is it?" And I almost I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Here's a child in the United States of America in a well-known city, probably not 5 miles from a grocery store. And I said, "Well, it's a cupcake." And he goes, "Well, what is a cupcake?" And I said, "It's like a little miniature cake, like a little birthday cake." He goes, "So I'm just going to eat it, just like eat it." And I said, "Well, let me take the paper off." So I took it back. I peeled the paper off of it. I handed it back to him. I said, "Well, just take a bite out of it." And he took a bite. And I said I had tears. And if I could have bottled that child's expression, I think I could have changed the world. He goes, "This is the best thing I've ever had my whole life."
Oh my God.
And I thought, oh my gosh, it's a cupcake. It's a cupcake.
Yeah.
And so when people go, "Oh, I don't know how to plug myself in. I don't know I can't. Oh my gosh, I can't make a difference. What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, "I'll tell you what you do. Get your butt to the grocery store and buy some cupcakes and go give them to some kids that never had them." Because, and I mean, I can drop another story but we were involved in a project in Dallas, Texas, and we sent an inner city school with a group. It was people from several different cities because we're not from Dallas. So our foundation was just involved in this. And that we sent an inner city school to the Children's Museum. And I think our part was we bought them all matching T-shirts and balloons to put to the younger kids so they could keep up with them, kind of thing. I don't remember. It's been several years ago. And I remember when the event was over, one of the people that work for our foundation called to tell me how it went, and the teacher or one of the people that put together the event said, "The teachers told us that we probably could have saved a lot of money because the majority of the kids had never ridden an elevator, and all they wanted to do was go up and down the elevator and push the buttons. We should have just taken them to an office building and saved blah blah blah." And I thought, here we are in Dallas, Texas, and you have kids that have never ridden an elevator. So this is not a daunting task. This isn't somebody going, "We need you to give $500 or we need you just to plug yourself in." And I think that's a lot of what this Orphan Myth campaign, we collectively together can do this. Collectively, we can have a voice and we can leave a footprint because we're so much better together than we are apart. And this is a manageable number. There's 440,000 and change kids in foster care, orphans. I mean, I know I like that word because it's not used very often. And if you read the definition of it, it's clearly what we need, the lives that we need to make a difference in. But I think there's like 445 or 450,000 faith-based organizations in this country. If every faith-based organization was responsible to put one foster kid in a loving home and monitoring it, we would wipe out the need for foster care, which statistically, it's 8 out of 10 kids and people in prison were in foster care. Yep. 4 out of 5 in sex trafficking were in foster care. I mean, go look at it. It's every grim statistic you can think of. They were all in foster care. So that's a manageable number. This is doable. This is something that together we could eliminate and wipe this out. And so I think that's what we're hoping that we can, through this campaign, that we can get people to focus on this, come together on this, and let's see if we can't wipe out the need for, foster care and to, try to make a difference.
Yeah. The thing that's come up multiple times in these conversations is that the number one of the biggest problems in foster care is that there's always a line of foster kids, and again, that one of the myths in the Orphan Myth campaign is that there are no orphans in the US, and that's not true. It's exactly what you said, that we call them something different, but that's what they are. Right. So there's always this long line of orphans and foster kids waiting to be adopted. And the idea that there is numbers on our side to flip that to where there's always families waiting. There's a waiting list of families to adopt children as they need it. You know what I mean? And instead of having it be the other way around, the numbers are there and it makes sense. Again, it's just this 100% participation and getting people's eyeballs and ears on it. Most definitely is going to be a huge step, and it's exciting to be a part of that. I want to touch on obviously the story that you're most well known for, and the thing that I love about what we've talked about thus far, and what I was going to get to eventually, is that everybody knows the story, right? The movie The Blind Side, and the New York Times article that turned into the book that turned into the movie that won Sandra Bullock a Best Actress Oscar, and that made you proud, I'm guessing. I bet that was a proud moment for you to say, "Hey, I sort of won an Oscar."
Well, she did a great job.
She did. She was fantastic. But this story of you, and again, let's humanize this, which, by the way, before I forget to say it, I love your Instagram because of the way that it humanizes this problem. That's a thing that keeps coming up in these conversations, where you're posting pictures and stories of foster children that are looking to either be reunified with their family or to find families. I love that you're doing that. So just having gone through it was very inspiring.
Thank you.
But you're driving down the road, and I'm going to oversimplify this probably, and obviously, but this is the way we've seen it and heard it. And you pass Michael, who's walking on the side of the road, and you cruise on by in your car with your family, and you have whatever we want to call it, an intuition, a prompting, a gut, whatever reaction to say, turn around. And I know that's a very powerful phrase that you've used in books and that you guys talk about in your family a lot. And as you do your work, that turnaround idea is, and you did, but what I like, what we've talked about so far, and maybe we can get even a little bit more into it, is that we're talking about principles you've lived by, ways that you've raised your children, things that you and your husband believed in before you met, and then that you fortified and strengthened as you became a partnership, that led up to this moment. It wasn't out of nowhere. You had this, maybe turn around. You know what I mean? You guys, that's a muscle that needs to be strengthened, right? This muscle of following these intuitions or following these promptings.
Yes. And I mean, we had done that before. I mean, and we've continued to do it since then. That's just the one moment that got magnified, because we had done numerous things. We're a big believer in giving back. And we think that everybody just needs, if you offer an individual, no matter what the scenario is, if you offer an individual hope and love and opportunity, you're going to change their life, no matter if it's the kid at school that's being bullied or the kid that we drove by on the street. I'm notorious for pulling over to a bus stop and giving someone a ride. I mean, my kids will be in the car and they go, don't do it, or run. Oh my gosh, she's going to do it. And it's just, it's just who I am. It's just, as you said, it's an intuition thing. And when you drive by somebody walking, I drove by somebody recently pouring down rain. They didn't have an umbrella. And I know we live in a scary society and people go, oh, I'm fearful. You may see my obituary one day. It said, idiot pulled over and picked up person. Okay, I hope it doesn't happen, but I know where I'm going. I'm looking forward to heaven. And so I don't live by fear. And it's pouring down rain and this person, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was pulled in. I said, I have an umbrella or I'm happy to give you a ride. And they were like, oh, wow. And they had the same thought. She going to kill me? I mean, it's they're thinking the same thing that you are. So they're in the same boat. And so sometimes I have to go, I know I hate to say this because I don't lead with this story, but if you ever saw the movie The Blind Side, I'm the lady in it. So I'm not a scary person. And well, I kind of am, but I'm happy to, but here, if you just don't feel comfortable, take an umbrella. So I'm notorious for keeping umbrellas from the Dollar Tree in my car and giving them to somebody in that situation. And you'd be surprised that they'll go, oh, well, thank you. Well, no, I just need to go about 4 blocks, and they get in, and then you hear their story and they haven't eaten in 2 days, or you look at their shoes and they don't have, their shoes are obviously threadbare, and they don't want to be in that situation. And if you have the ability to change their life and to make a difference, whether it's to go get them a hot meal or find them a piece of, whatever their needs might be, if you can meet them in some shape, form, or fashion, you do that once, you do it twice, it becomes infectious, and it just becomes a part of who you are and a part of your fiber. And you want to do it more and you want to do it more. And that's what happens. And so innately, that's kind of, I know now that I've lived this life and this is my journey, that when you do things like that, you can make a difference. And I get tickled. SJ is in this coaching profession, and this, he did undergrad at Loyola of Maryland and played basketball there. And then he, like I said, he went to SMU and he played football and got his master's there. And now he's in the middle of his PhD and we're working with him. And so he volunteers. He's around a lot of kids through his PhD, that he's involved with programs that the people aren't as fortunate, and he plugs people in to see how they can help. And he was just recently, there was an incarceration facility for violent juvenile offenders that have been through all the steps before that. Now they're kind of in this maximum security facility, and you can go at certain times of the day and play basketball with them. And there's certain times groups can go in, and since SJ played collegiate basketball, he'll put together guys sometimes and go play basketball. And he innately comes home about 1 out of every 4 times. He'll go, okay, there's this kid. All right, I'm telling you, we need to adopt mom. He needs a chance. He's smart. We need to help him read. We've got to get him. He just needs to, because SJ knows when you invest time in somebody that it changes their life.
Yeah.
And so he's passionate about doing that now, because that's the road that he has been raised on. And he knows that while this kid, if he doesn't get help, he could be on the street selling drugs in 2 years. But yet, if we turn around and we invest time in them and we tutor them a couple hours a week, and we just make sure that they're not hungry and that they're clothed and their basic necessities are met. And then when those necessities are met, they can focus on other things. They become contributing members of society. And so it's truly doable, but it's going to take us opening our hearts and our homes to offer these people an opportunity and a chance to be able to make a difference in their lives.
Yeah. So tackling that head on a little bit, this idea, and you brought it up, the fear that comes with you're driving down the road and you see somebody in need. And I mean, what would you say? 99 times out of 100 people just drive by, right? If not more.
99.9%.
Yeah,
and my husband says he said, I would have probably, he goes, I would have recognized the need, but I think women's intuition a little, kicks in as a mother. It's nagging at your heart that that here is a person in an inappropriate place at an inappropriate time, inappropriately dressed for the weather. There's just nothing that seems right about it. And your motherly intuition says, gosh, you need to do something. And then boom, you turn around and you plug yourself in and you realize, wow, I have an opportunity here to change a life. And those opportunities are readily available because people ask every day, how can I plug myself in? They ask us that. Where can I plug myself in? What can I do to make a difference? And I always tell people, you don't want to scare people off. So you don't want to all of a sudden just give them this monumental, start with baby steps. Start with little needs and do that. And then whether it is volunteering at the library or volunteering at the fire department to take cookies to the firemen or giving water bottles out, just little things. And when you start little and just gradually build your way up, I'm telling you, it becomes, you can't get enough. And you wake up in the morning going, what can I do today to make a difference? And I honestly, when I get up in the morning, before my feet hit the floor, I my quiet time and say my prayers. And my prayer always is, God, use me today to make a difference in someone's life. And I tell people all the time, it could be a smile or opening the door for someone or helping a mother with their stroller, getting, down an aisle at the grocery store. I mean, there are little things like that can change someone's mood. You have no idea. I know we can't see people with these masks. They can't see us smiling. I'm kind of, I got one of those clear ones that you can kind of see through, because I thought I want people to know that I'm smiling at them. I miss that. That's the one thing I miss with these masks, is seeing people, their expressions and their smiles, because a smile warms my heart. And I think that it's so underestimated.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And I actually noticed that recently. I think it was actually at the grocery store, and I said something to somebody and they couldn't understand. I was smiling as I said it, but that's such a huge part of communication, just the nonverbal side of communication, that I remember thinking, oh, they didn't understand what I meant by that because they couldn't see that I was smiling when I said it. You know what I mean? It was like that human interaction was missing something. It was like, it just didn't go the way, because you can't see that. It's very interesting. Clear mask is a good idea. The fear that we mentioned earlier, and again, that's the reason why 99.99% of people just drive by is probably really because of that fear. I mean, do you have any, I guess, having been somebody that's pulled over a lot of times or gone to these places that people may not go because, again, there's a lot of fear. I mean, how do we overcome that? What advice do you give to people that says, like, don't be so fearful, don't be scared? I mean, the odds are in your favor. It's better to do the right thing. I mean, do you have anything that you tell people, or any based on your experience? Because I'm thinking, even like when you drive up and you see somebody, on the corner that has their sign up, falling on a hard time, seeing somebody. A lot of times moms in their car with their kids or something still kind of avoid that scenario, just because they think their mind goes to, fear or being scared or whatever. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm a big proponent of keeping quarters or $1 bills in my car. And I tell my kids that as well, to do the same thing. And I make sure if they're with me that I always give. And I tell, because your kids and we're skeptical. That's kind of who we are. That's where society has us today. We're all kind of skeptical and leery, and we're cynical. That's our first line of thought. And I'm trying to raise my kids, even that they're grown now, not to be that way, because it's our responsibility to give. And I always say, God will judge your heart if you have it to give and you don't. If people take things and they shouldn't, well, God will judge their heart too. And I'm concerned about my kids' hearts and my family and my friends' hearts. If you have it to give, you give. Don't worry about what they're going to do with it. So use those, because you don't know whether those people actually. Are there some that take it that shouldn't? Yes. Most of them, the needs are there. And so use that. That's a small way to start to overcome it. Crack your window, lower your window, give it to them. I mean, I don't want people to say they listen to this podcast and the next day the lady goes out into, the hood or somewhere and something happens and, I listened to that crazy lady on that podcast. Well, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that there is a way to start. I'm a very faith-based person. There's a lot of scripture about fear. And I think that the Lord protects us in many, many ways. I think you have to use your common sense. Absolutely. But, get a friend, get a group of friends, do something together to get you, go to a reliable organization that goes into, whether it's a soup kitchen or whatever it might be, that goes into these communities and does things. You need to build your confidence up if you are that person that is fearful or scared to do things like this. Like I said, start little, do it as a group. We have friends that hold inner city they'll do, whether it's a Bible study or they'll do recreational days or they'll do cleanup days, and they do it together with the group, and they'll do it with organizations, whether it's a Boys or Girls Club or what's a community service day with their city or whatever it might be, give back days. We all have these now, and plug yourself into those where you're with a whole group of like-minded people that are going into a certain area, whether you're cleaning up trash or you're planting a garden or whatever you might do. And you'll build your confidence up that way. And the more you do that, the more that you will just want to get involved and go, oh, what are we doing next? What's our next activity? And you will truly get to where you're like that.
Yeah, I love it. Such great advice. Goodness gracious. I'm just taking notes here. I feel like I'm in listening to a lecture, and I'm just taking a ton of notes on my notepad here.
Wow, bless you.
So if you're, one of the things that's interesting, and I've said this a lot on this podcast, and it's something that I believe in, whether it's in my, entrepreneurial journey or faithful journey or as a parent or whatever it might be, is that when you see opportunities in front of you and you capitalize on those opportunities, then those opportunities create more opportunities, right? And so you kind of like build on these opportunities that come your way. And then eventually you get to a place where you've got to pick and choose a little bit more, which opportunities you take advantage of, because you capitalized on all of these opportunities that led to more and more opportunities. Your story is one that makes perfect sense, because again, just a high level synopsis, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, your husband's friend was visiting, and then he saw Michael at your guys' home, and he was like, "What's going on here?" Your husband gave him a quick rundown of the story of Michael O'Hara and how you guys had adopted him and had brought him into your home and helped change his life and him change yours. Anyways, he then has to write something for the New York Times. He writes it. It then gets picked up, and they say, "Hey, this was really well received. We want to write a book." And then they write a book, and then they're like, the rights get sold. And you guys made zero money on all of this, right? The family Correct. At the core of it. There was it's not like you guys were, in some negotiation room, maxing out some huge contract. It was like, yeah, tell the story. Go ahead. Yeah. And it was just these opportunities presented themselves. And it sounds like it was kind of like, yeah, that would be awesome. Oh yeah, that would be. And I mean, now look, 10 years removed from, has it been 10 years? I think it's been 10 or 11 years, right? So all of the doors that have opened up, I'm sure, and the different opportunities that have come to you guys. I mean, what are some of the greatest surprises or some, or the greatest things that you guys have been able to do because of this journey that you just could have never imagined before?
Well, I mean, it certainly changed our lives. When people go, well, did the movie change your life? And well, that's just a stupid statement, because yes. And we feel like it was very God driven. It wasn't anything, we didn't anticipate this or expect this. And everyone has a story, and there's so many more compelling stories than ours. I mean, truly, there's people that have done far greater things than we did or we ever will do. And there should have been a movie made about them, but clearly God chose to tell this story. So we try to be good stewards of the message. And it has given us, that's the main thing. No, we did not make any money off of it. Once the article was written, that, which was all we really gave permission for, they could have written this, they could have spun this a million different ways. And this is just, I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse. It depends on what day it is when you ask me that. But it did give us an opportunity to have things that we'd have never done. We've done numerous TV shows, and we were already doing. I mean, my husband at the time the movie came out, I mean, he was in the middle of his fast food journey. He was working 60 hours a week. He also was broadcasting in the NBA. He did the color commentary for 16 years for our Memphis Grizzlies. So when Michael came to live with us, Sean was doing 82 NBA games a year, wow. Which is, just keeping up with that circuit in itself is crazy. So he was doing NBA games, trying to run his restaurants. And here we bring a third person, a child, into the home. And so it took a village. And I mean, we just all hands on deck, and we couldn't have done it without everyone. And then it became, like you said, an article and then a book and then a movie, all on the fast track. And I mean, all within like 5 or 6 years, it became an article to a movie within that short amount of time, which is really unheard of. Yeah. And we get a lot of communication from people that go, how did you do that? We've got a story, or someone's asking us to tell our story. Can you give us advice? Well, we're really not qualified to give advice because, like you said, we didn't negotiate. We had nothing to do with it. It was just like you go, how did this happen? But because it did happen, it has given us a platform and an opportunity to go out and talk about the kids that need a forever family, the kids that are falling through the cracks of society, the orphans in this world that need someone to bang the drum for them that says, don't forget about me, don't ignore me, help me to be a contributing member of society, whether it is to be reunified with their family or to find another forever family. And that is why I post my kids every Friday on my Instagram. It's because here is a face. Sometimes globally, you look at something and you know that Kids Save America, or what the Orphans of the World, or whatever, kids.org, whatever the organization is, you see it as this big picture and you go, do I toss money at it? Is it going in a black hole? What am I doing? Whatever your thoughts may be. So I'm trying to individualize this. So when you look at my Instagram on Fridays, you go, here's a face, here's a human being, here's a heartbeat. This person right here, right this moment, in this snapshot of time, needs a family. I need you to repost this. I need you to like it, because if you do that, if you hit the like button, it gets the algorithm up and more people see it. I need you to take this child. I need you to talk about her at work. I need you to talk about her to your neighbor at the mailbox. I need you to talk to this at the grocery store. Whoever will listen, say, hey, here's a child that needs adopting. You may not can adopt it, and the person you tell might not can adopt that child, but that person could tell someone else. You don't know the ripple effect. And we're having success. It's not the greatest success I would like, because I would love for these 52 kids that we post this year to have 52 forever families. But we've had some matches already where every kid is getting a case study. Some families are coming and saying, we want to get home studies done so we can become foster parents. We need more foster parents. We need more people involved. So no matter what it is, if you can't adopt that kid, you might know someone, and just by talking to them, they go, oh, well, I've been wanting to become a foster parent. So let me get that home study done to qualify me, and then I might be able to do that. Or, oh, my neighbor was talking about that their daughter was looking to adopt. Let me tell her to look at this because she might be interested. I mean, it sounds like a business plan, but I don't care what it sounds like to you. This is a human being that is getting ready to age out or close to aging out of foster care, that needs somebody. They have no structure, no support group, nothing. The system takes care of them on one day when they're 17. At midnight, they turn 18, and we kick them out, and they're on the streets. And I'm looking around, and I'll say it every day. Every friend I have, the majority of them, their 18-year-olds are living at home, and they're taking care of them. They're paying their cell phone bill. They're paying for their insurance. They're giving them gas money. The kids have a job, but it's not. And I'm going, so if your own kids can't make it, how do you think these foster kids or these orphans can make it? So I just think that I'm giving everybody an opportunity every week. Here is one person right here, is your community, your city, your state. If we can get this one kid adopted every week into a forever family, we're doing something. We're moving the needle at least. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give a face, because so a lot of people go, well, I need to see it and touch it and feel it to get involved. Well, here you go. Here you go. Here is something you can see, a real live person. This is the person that we're trying to find their forever family for. Or these are the kids that Orphan Myth. This is what this campaign is about. It's about collectively coming together so you can touch it and feel it and hear it and know that what you're doing is making a difference.
Yeah, because so often, and this conversation continues to come up as well, but it's one of those problems that you hear statistics on, from time to time, or whatever. And it's easy to dehumanize it and say, oh, just see the numbers. Like you said earlier, 400,000, kids or whatever looking for families in the US right now. And, and these numbers, 4 or 5, people in prostitution at one point were in the foster care system or whatever the numbers were. Like it's really easy to just see these as numbers, but I love the way that you're putting it to humanize and not just realize that, but in this moment in time, this person that you're seeing in this picture with a heartbeat and ambition and goals and dreams and hopes needs to be connected with the family in one way or another. And how can we become a part of that? And I mean, again, the whole Orphan Myth campaign, everybody I've had the pleasure to meet that's involved in it is really putting a human touch, to this entire process. And I'm excited to see the results. So how did you get involved with this specific campaign and get involved with the Orphan Myth campaign?
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of like, you meet somebody and you hear a name and then you file it away. And then all of a sudden something else comes up and you hear that name again. And then a week later. And so that kind of happened to me. I had one friend that said something about it. And then a couple of weeks later, someone said, "Oh, do you know about this?" And it just kept coming up and kept coming up. And then out of the blue, I got a phone call from Hadley. I mean, it was just, I think one of those things, I don't believe in coincidences. I'm not someone that believes in fate. I believe that paths are meant to cross and that there are no accidents. And so I just think this was meant to be. We're very like-minded. Myself, the individuals involved with Orphan Myth, the organizations that are involved are very much like our Making It Happen Foundation. So, I just think it's good when you surround yourself with like-minded people, like-minded organizations, and collectively together, like I've said several times already, we're so much better together than we are apart. So I think if we can all come together on these causes for these kids, that we will be able to have a greater impact and make a difference quicker and in more kids' lives than if we just try to do it solo.
Great. So your website is makingithappenfoundation.com. The Orphan Myths website is orphanmyth.org. And what can people do, or how can they engage with the Making It Happen Foundation website online, or what can people do to get involved and engage?
We give you a lot of opportunities on our website. You can go on there. I've spoken at events, I've visited places, I've met people, and anytime that I do that, and I feel like that where I go and what I do and the organizations I'm with, if they are making a difference and moving the needle, we have them on our website. So you can plug in with one of those. You go, oh, this is in my area. Or we have opportunities on our website of things that you can do. You can get involved with us. We have projects that are coming up listed, which we always need volunteers for, more of your time. I mean, anyone would like a donation. And we tell you, if you donate to the Making It Happen Foundation, we will tell you within a short amount of time of what we have used your money for. We don't ever take money in and it go into a black hole. We will tell you that we bought school supplies for inner city school. During the pandemic, we opened one of the schools up that we're involved with. We fed kids several times. We still did a drive-by Santa for different groups. I mean, we will tell you that we spent your money on this, and we will show you a picture. A lot of times we'll give you a name because we want people to know this is where your hard-earned dollars went. We just don't want you to send a check in and go, oh, well, okay, I don't know where that went, but I'm going to get a tax deduction for it. Yeah, you will. But, that's not what it's all about. It's knowing that your hard-earned dollars truly made a difference in someone's lives. And that's what Sean and I try to be very cognizant of. We want you to know that we appreciate what you do and that we are putting a lot of time and effort into turning around and giving your dollars to someone that really the needs are great.
Perfect. Well, I want to say, I want to be very mindful of your time and really sincerely, it's a huge pleasure for me to be able to get to know you and to talk to you a little bit and to really hear and learn from your guys' inspiring story that has been shared so many times, countless times, right? You guys there's no way of tracking at this point how many times your story has been told as a result of the book and the movie and everything else. But it is a real treat and pleasure and honor for me to learn from you and for our audience to be able to hear from you and learn from you. And thanks so much for all that you're doing, and especially here with the Orphan Myth campaign that we've become involved with. And yeah, really great to meet you, Leigh Anne.
Well, thank you for having me, and everybody go out and do something today to cause someone to smile.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Dawn. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, it's Corey here, and I just want to thank you so much for listening into the Hope Strategy podcast. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are enjoying having these amazing conversations with these incredible individuals, talking about hope. We'd love it if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, and share it with anybody you feel that can benefit from these messages of hope. Thank you so much for listening to the Hope Strategy Podcast.